Good heavens, this be an interesting development.
Hello, this is KRBrickBot, and I shall give a recourse on Sir Classic the Tobot. I was considering doing an entirely medieval style review like old Jolly Captain Jack, but I realized I'm not that well versed in the old Middle English. The box is the classic affair of the Season 2 design. Robot mode, vehicle mode, the SD mode, and some lightning. The side of the box shows a Gallant portrait. And this box shows the Gallant lights. And this side shows a lovely landscape.
명예와 철도를 하는 로봇 클래식 부르셨습니까? 왕자님, 공주님, 아름답고 존귀한 이름 영원히 간직하겠습니다. 클래식 V 익스텐션 잘못을 뉘우친다면 자비를 베풀고 용서하겠다. 클래식의 명예를 걸고 파워풀 스피어 디스트럭션.
I say, this is a most exquisite antique car. As for its most approximate model, take your pick. It has all those traits of a classic car, that curved mudguard on the two sides, the spare tire, very long hood, a very ornately decorated hood, very classy with feathers and strokes, a very narrow hood with very narrow windows, trimmed with a subtle touch of gold. Nice trims of gold throughout, and a giant gold grille with a T hood ornament, beautiful round blue lights and side lights, and rear view mirrors, and painted rear red lights. The gold paint looks exquisite, but the gold plastic looks a little pish-posh. Now, I have no worries about this being infected by the plague that is gold plastic syndrome, but it just looks cheap. It's not cheap, but it looks cheap because it's just so much yellower than the gold. A modern classic like Pony Meister could pull off a darker shade of gold, but looks like Young Toys could not replicate that. And so they came up with this yellowish gold. And that's also on the lance. A pretty golden lance that first came out as really yellow in early production shots. But if you see the finger here, yeah, this gold is looking translucent. This looks very thin. You can see all the framework in there. And the lance shows some exquisite craftsmanship, which is sadly not shown on this little gold cheapo, with an extra shaft sticking out on the side and screw holes. Yeah, so this is all black and red, with the gold being some very nice subtle touches. The tiniest of touches. All those molded details are there, but it's all unpainted, so it would take an especially skilled painter to turn this into a real work of craftsmanship for a lance. This thing can be stored on either of the yellowish gold spare wheels for a jousting antique car. His toki is an entire castle, like the drawbridge and turrets. This is also very detailed, like all sorts of layered brickwork, like bricks falling out and bricks sticking out, and little windows and tapestry, unpainted tapestry, little drawbridge, portcullis, tower spokes. This one looks a little bent. But yeah, this castle by itself could look like it could make a great miniature prop. And what is this? Yeah, this is for the head. So you just have to store it like this. So doesn't quite look like a miniature with this giant helmet there. But that goes right on the back of the car on these blue clips. It's a substantially big car robot. Onwards to the transformation. Remove the ornate hood to reveal some simple inner workings. Get those out of the way. Anti-cover mode. Those will be the arms. Ratchet this upward so that this hood rests directly on top of the car hood. Split that a little bit. Turn those arms downward here. Yes, so get these car sides out of the way now. 180 both. Flip up the little head. The shield can attach to the arm here. And the lance to this arm. And then tilt these back a little. And don't forget to flip down the butt flap for a little non-third wheel. So there's a Classic in his first stage, or robot mode, or super deformed mode. Like a very like a droid robot wheelbase, or a RC car transformer like thing. Yes, this kind of looks like it would be an RC transformer. And he's very much like a hunchback, just hunched over right over the car hood. He even has a spine that is angled just so right over the hood. A spine. And stubby little arms that are articulated really weirdly because these are actually longer arms. And molded open fists. So that is some detailed sculpting. And that is the very tiny, vaguely knight head. Vaguely slotted head, but you can't really see in this position because it's covered by this gold. There is some light piping, whatever good that does. And it is awfully tiny, such a peasantry tiny, compared to his animation model. And here's the super deformed lightning. Arise, Sir Classic, into your true form. Spread out the legs. Close this again. Turn around this like a flap. Ratchet 180. Fold down the arms. Then fold those to the side. Plug the toe key. And the lance does go into the underside of his hand. He certainly looks knightly, very knightly. Silver legs, silver armored boots with gray and red and gold. Arms are looking pretty ornate with that ornate shield and gold cuffs. And that head, yes, that very knightly head of the slotted visor variety on his mouth and his brow. Mixed with some modern exhaust smoke pipes and a big black crest. Flanked by those castle turrets which kind of look like exhausts or cannons of their own. And the classic grille dominates the chest. Again, it's unusual and limiting to have a hole only on the underside of the hand, so he cannot hold it like an actual sword. He can still mount it on his arm though. And his final accessory is this red cape. This red flowing cape with symmetrical yet ragged design. And as you can see, it is paper cardboard. Double-sided paper cardboard. I only applied this once and it's already bent. Yeah, so wonder how many of these capes will be crunched and discarded. So to attach that cape, it goes right between the toe key. The best way to remove this toe key is to angle it slightly upward, because it also locks into his other head. Right between those clips. And which is not easy to plug in, so I imagine the little squires will scrunch this, just jam the clips. Just jam the paper between the clips, not around the clips. So if you can get that right, you can have a permanently static flowing cape. Very flat looking. I really do wish this was not paper. I do wish this was an actual cloth piece, so that it will not have any risk of being terribly creased, and could also fold up for storage. At least there's a cutout for the spine, and his waist does turn still pretty well with that on. Articulation goes as the ball-socketed head. Upwards, downwards, and to the side wiggle. A ratcheted waist. At an ever so permanently backwards crunch. And he can also arc. That toe key space leaving a lot of arc space. Shoulders are on soft ratchets, as far as these will allow. Double elbows. Inward wrist. And yeah, 2 hands. No biceps. Legs on 3 clicks. And 2 back 2. Knees can go forward and more with those flaps. And there be no thighs. Classic is a brilliant fusion of 2 very different time period concepts into one magnificent looking robot. Who wouldn't love a classic car transformer that's also a knight? Can you imagine if this wasn't the last knight? Fun fact, Classic's not the first knight-themed Tobot, but he charges full speed ahead with it. The SD mode is just an intermediate transitory mode, so you can completely ignore that and just go straight from the classic car to the majestic knight. Should you wish to procure a fine automobile and auto robot, I would direct you to these merchants.
Thanks for watching, and do be sure to like and subscribe. So until next time, farewell.